Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tackling a massive, honestly incredibly relatable paradox. We all generally know what's healthy for us, right? We know we should eat our veggies, exercise regularly, avoid dangerous situations, take care of our teeth, the whole shebang. But knowing what to do and actually doing it? Yeah, those are two entirely different things. Why is there such a massive gap between our health knowledge and our actual behavior? Well, today we're going to use the science of psychology to understand exactly why that happens, and much more importantly, how we can actually fix it.
Okay, let's dive into this roadmap for today. First, we'll explore why we ignore health warnings. Then, the fear tactics myth. Third, information as medicine. Fourth, role models and rewards. And finally, the positive psychology shift.
Section 1. Why we ignore health warnings.
Let's begin with a really fascinating flaw in human cognition. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, even subconsciously, why do bad things only happen to other people? Whether it's reading about a terrible car accident, a heart attack, or, even just tooth decay, we all have this subtle belief that those tragedies are things that befall other people. Definitely not us. It's a highly relatable psychological quirk, but when it comes to health promotion, it's a critical roadblock.
This error in judgment actually has a formal name in the literature: unrealistic optimism. Back in a landmark 1980 study, a researcher named Weinstein asked college students to judge their likelihood of experiencing various positive and negative life events compared to their peers. And the results? They overwhelmingly showed that we have an inaccurate, overly optimistic view of our own invulnerability. Basically, we use this cognitive error to actively justify ignoring positive health advice. Because think about it, if you genuinely believe that high blood pressure or accidents simply don't apply to you because you're somehow exempt, well, you're just going to tune out the health warnings completely.
Section 2. The fear tactics myth.
So knowing we have this built-in shield of unrealistic optimism, society's natural reaction is usually to try and break through by scaring us straight. But does that actually work? In a classic 1953 study by Janis and Feshbach, researchers split high school students into groups to test dental hygiene education. One group got what they called a strong fear appeal. We're talking gruesome, graphic photos of tooth decay, diseased gums, highly personalized threats. Another group received a minimal fear appeal. Mild, factual, just using neutral x-rays and basic diagrams of tooth growth. Which approach do you think actually worked better?
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the wildly counterintuitive result. When researchers followed up a week later to see who actually changed their behavior and went to the dentist, 18% of the minimal fear group went, but only 10% of the strong fear group did. The heavy fear appeal literally backfired. When you blast people with terrifying graphic threats, it doesn't motivate them. It just makes them defensive, they build up resistance, they tune out the message, and they actively avoid the guidance. Scaring people simply does not increase the likelihood of them taking health guidance on board.
Section 3. Information as medicine.
Okay, so if fear tactics just push people away, we clearly need a different approach. We need to genuinely empower them instead. And a 1992 study by Lewin et al. Did exactly that, with 190 patients who had just suffered a major heart attack. Instead of just scaring them about having another one, researchers provided a highly structured, comprehensive recovery manual. This wasn't fluff. It included clear medical education, a home-based exercise program, recorded relaxation techniques, and psychological self-help for intrusive thoughts. The result? By giving clear, empowering information, patients in this experimental group showed radically reduced anxiety, lower depression scores, and significantly fewer hospital readmissions in the first 6 months compared to the standard care group. Actionable information literally acts as medicine.
Section 4. Role models and rewards.
So we know clear information works incredibly well for adults in medical settings, but how do we change the actual daily culture for kids? Well, meet these super kawaii characters from a 2003 study by Tapper et al. These are the food dudes. To get nursery-age children to eat healthy foods, researchers didn't lecture them. They used peer modeling combined with small rewards. The children watched videos of slightly older kids, the food dudes, gaining superpowers by eating fruits and vegetables to battle the junk punks. When the real-world kids copied this behavior and tried the foods themselves, they were given small rewards like stickers or pens.
The impact of this was absolutely staggering. Before the intervention, fruit consumption at lunchtime was sitting at a baseline of just 30%. But following the introduction of the food dudes and those little rewards, that number massively jumped all the way up to 71%. And crucially, the effects lasted long-term, even after the rewards were completely phased out. Why? Because it changed the actual culture of the school and the children's own self-concept. Now, this exact same logic of rewarding positive behavior applies perfectly to high-risk adult workplaces too, through something called a token economy. This is a system where tokens are given for specific desirable behavior, and later they can be exchanged for real goods. In a landmark 1987 study by Fox et al., this was tested in incredibly dangerous open-pit mines. Workers earned trading stamps every month they didn't suffer a lost-time injury, and they lost stamps if they did. They could then trade these stamps in for things they actually wanted, like spice racks or microwaves.
So, the crucial point is the financial impact of this setup. Because of the token economy, accidents and injuries at the mines decreased by an astounding 90%. But look at the bottom line. The mining company saved a staggering $20.7 in accident costs and lost time for every single dollar they spent on those stamp rewards. It is undeniable proof that reinforcing good behavior is incredibly powerful and, honestly, incredibly cost-effective.
Section 5, the positive psychology shift.
Preventing bad habits and accidents is obviously vital, but modern health psychology is zooming out to actively build human well-being. Martin Seligman created a powerful framework for this, moving from basic pleasures to profound depth. He describes 3 happy lives. First, there's the pleasant life, which is all about maximizing positive emotions and really savoring the present moment. Second is the good life, which requires you to identify your highest strengths and virtues and use them in your daily work and love. But the absolute peak is step 3, the meaningful life. This is where you use those exact same strengths to belong to and serve something much larger than yourself, like your community or your family.
And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when we apply this framework in the real world. In a 2014 study by Shoshani and Steinmetz in Israeli middle schools, they trained teachers in positive psychology, focusing heavily on gratitude, positive emotions, and identifying strengths. Over the course of the year, as the data clearly showed with a solid drop, the students in the intervention program exhibited a significant decrease in general distress. It didn't just help individuals either. It fundamentally improved the entire culture of the school and the relationships between staff and students.
Martin Seligman perfectly summarized this paradigm shift we've explored today with this quote: "In the end, I believe that we learn more when lighting candles than when cursing the darkness." For decades, psychology tried to curse the darkness. We focused on fear, on suffering, on what goes wrong. But now, we know the true path to health promotion is lighting candles, focusing on our strengths, providing clear information, rewarding positive behavior, and building resilient communities.
Which leaves us with one final, truly provocative thought. Knowing everything we've just covered, from the hidden pitfalls of unrealistic optimism to the profound power of the meaningful life, how are you going to step up? How will you apply your highest positive strengths to your own life today? Don't just sit around and wait for the darkness. Go out there and light a candle. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.